Okay, so the final information I wanted to show to you so you can see what the development and the persuasive structuring of paragraphs means is to look at the topic sentences of a 25 out of 25 essay and to show you the way in which they build upon each other. So the first one here, man's initial use of erlebte Rede, which is free and direct discourse, style of narration that you see very frequently in Death in Venice, contributes to the text's representation of degradation, as Aschenbach is revealed at the outset of the novella to be exercising excessive self-control. So, first sentence, beginning of the text, use of narrative voice, contribution to the representation of degradation. The story begins with Aschenbach trying to exercise too much self-control, and that's the beginning of this narrative of degradation. Second sentence, due to the gradual and unstable nature of the degradation that the text represents, again, the thematic component of the question, the narrator maintains a formal register throughout, which, as is the case in his exhaustive descriptions of the figures that constructs the text Dionysus motif, displays the grappling between his id and superego, whilst relentlessly attempting to rationalize his motives. So this is a really complex sentence, but you can still see the components of this. The gradual and unstable nature of the degradation. The narrator maintains a formal register, so there's the what and the why again, just in reverse order. The exhaustive descriptions of the figures that construct the text Dionysus motif displays the grappling between id and superego, whilst relentlessly attempting to rationalize his motives. So again, here's the unique version of this second example. It's moments where the stranger god figure is described in an exhaustive fashion, shows the internal conflict, basically, of Aschenbach, which is a slightly more complex addition to this initial state of being just exercising excessive self-control. So then they move to the third paragraph. Another means by which man exploits the narrative voice, so there's the what again, in order to represent Aschenbach's degradation, there's the why, is the distance he creates between the narrators and Aschenbach's consciousness of Venice's symbolic significance as a city of moral corruption. So there's the third way in which, the unique way in which he uses narrative voice to represent degradation. This is the paragraph that I've looked at through an example. What you see though is it's tracking a kind of narrative, and this is once we're in Venice. So we've moved from the initial state further into the text where the internal conflict is elicited later on as we arrive in Venice. And then the fourth section is builds on this again. Once in Venice, and the doomed relationship between Aschenbach and Tadzio has begun, man's depiction of the narrator's relentless attempts to justify Aschenbach's sexual attraction to Tadzio, the narrator's attempts to justify sexual attraction, there's the what again, the narrative voice, further emphasizes Aschenbach's descent into moral degradation, the why. 5 and 6, man's narration of Aschenbach's reaction to Tadzio's sickliness also develops the novel's warning about degradation. So there's again, the narration of Aschenbach's reaction to Tadzio's sickliness is a warning about degradation. And then finally, man's depiction of Aschenbach's dreams illustrates the development of his internal conflict and degradation, which is emphasized by the narrator's failure to comprehend their symbolic significance. So degradation is being emphasized again by the narrative voice and its failure to understand the symbolic significance of the dream, which actually is what, in the end, collapses narrative voice into Aschenbach as a character, and they become indistinguishable. So what you can see is the way that these topic sentences focus relentlessly on that combination of style, feature, and thematic meaning, but constantly decontextualize that combination in specific examples from the text that chart the trajectory of that combination of meaning and style all the way throughout the novella. And so that's what you're looking to do in your topic sentences. You're supposed to be building a focus on a particular element of the style and its meaning, but showing us as we progress through a particular part of the text or the text overall, how does that story uniquely manifest itself in several different examples, and how do those examples tell us the narrative of the text itself through that particular stylistic feature.